Children. No. Children and females must be protected at all times. First by their fathers, then by their husbands, then by their sons.
I think there are certainly cases, at least in my experience, where top surgery before the age of 18 was, again, life-saving for that individual.
There's other ways to raise up the next generation, adoption and things like that. So I think making the decision to go on puberty blockers is something that someone at a young age can make.
Hey, what's going on, YouTube? It's me again, Aaron, with American Interviews. We're out here in Arcata, California, one of the most liberal towns in America, to ask the question, are children capable of life-altering decisions? We're going to find out. People laughing already. That's a good sign. It's a good sign. Got a class coming out of the Poli Sci building right now.
What's this about?
Hello.
Hi.
I do unbiased street interviews.
Oh. What's the question today?
The question today is, can children make life-altering decisions? It's a tough one, but it needs to be talked about.
I think it truly depends on how much knowledge they have. Parents really decide that what their kids do and should and shouldn't know, and when it comes to something that has to do with their personality, their emotions, anything, that should really be on them. Kids.
On the parents or the kids?
The kids. It's their body. It's their opinion. They should be given all the knowledge possible, in my opinion.
Do you think they should be able to get like piercings and tattoos and stuff?
No, I think the age range right now is probably the best idea. You're slightly more knowledgeable and mature. In my opinion, I didn't get piercings or anything until I was 18, just because it's not necessarily the best idea.
So you don't think the law should be involved in any way of children's decisions about their personal well-being or anything like that?
I don't think the law has any say in what children or women do with their bodies, in my opinion.
Well, there are laws stating that kids can't get tattoos until the age of 18 or drink alcohol.
That's true. I personally think that has to do with brain development. You should not be drinking alcohol if your brain is so underdeveloped. You're still learning how to be a human being. So
since we were talking about body changing and you brought up their personality and stuff, do you think it would be okay for children to go on puberty blockers?
Oh, that's a good question. I really don't know personally. I'd say no, honestly. I think that you should I think that it really comes down to experience and not what you have in your mind, I guess. Yes, kids have their opinions, but they also still need to experience the world before they can make a true decision. At least that's my opinion.
That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping and talking to me.
Have a good one.
You too.
In my opinion, I'm obviously too young to have a children right now. I'm only 19 years old. It honestly depends on, what the decision is. If it's a really, really complex decision, I'm going to say no. But if it's a decision that could potentially, that is at the time very small, yet it could have a big impact on the remainder of their life, I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
Can you give me an example of maybe a small decision or a large decision that you were thinking of?
A large decision, probably maybe something to do with me, maybe something with finance or money related, something that maybe a child couldn't truly understand, at such a young age. Honestly, even at my age right now, I wouldn't probably make a big money decision right now because I still don't truly understand how finances and all that stuff works. A small decision, honestly, to be completely honest with you, I can't really think of anything personally, but I know there's probably someone who can come up with a decision that could probably be a relatively small one that could be easy for a child to come up with, but that could later impact their life as they grow up to become an adult.
What about tattoos and piercings? Do you think children should be able to decide if they want those types of things?
You know what? That could probably be decided as like a small thing. I think so. I absolutely think so. Like, I know parents are gonna be like, "Oh, you gotta wait until you're 18," or like, like I understand, like that is actually like the rules. I know some places require you to like, if you do want a tattoo or a piercing. Well, I don't know about piercing, but a tattoo for sure. As a minor or someone under the age of 18, you need to have like a written consent letter from your parents, but. I think if the child, I think there's like certainly like a 2-year-old, like I wouldn't give like a 5-year-old like a piercing or a tattoo, but if they're old enough to like understand what happens when you get a tattoo, like the pain and like what the after effects could be. Also, same thing with the piercing. I think. And they're like they think it over and they don't just make like, oh yes, I definitely want a tattoo because my friends are gonna get one, or I want a piercing because I know someone else who has a piercing. Like, if they can make that decision and like they think it through before they're going and getting a piercing or a tattoo, I think it's I don't see anything against get a child who of a reasonable age to get like a piercing or a tattoo.
What do you think a reasonable age for that would be?
If I were a parent, I would say maybe like around junior year, senior year of high school.
So like 16?
16, maybe 15, but I think 16 is like a good minimal age to think about this.
Here's a real tough one. Do you think children should be able to make the decision to go on puberty blockers?
I mean, it's honestly a really tough question. If they think, I can't going back to like, if they're like, being pressured to do it, no, I mean, you should never be pressured to do anything, no matter how old you are.
Right.
Oh my God.
You keep touching on social pressures. Do you think that that's a big issue for children making decisions?
I mean, I think so. I mean, we hear about all the time, especially now with like social media. We see things on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, et cetera. And it's like people are gonna see like, oh, this person's doing this cool thing. It's like, I want to try that, and sometimes they just jump right into it, not realizing that they could potentially end up in the hospital, or every person's worst fear, they could potentially even die, which no one wants to see. Right. And I think obviously we have access to the internet right in our pocket. Like, most people have that easy access. They can just pull up their phone, and it's like before in the past people had like these big bulky bricks as phones, so it's like it's much more easier to access and like actually like see it. Oh, it's like, hey, look at this, little Jimmy's doing this thing, and it's like, I want to do that. And I feel like they might like not realize that they could actually put their lives at risk if they like follow their peers and doing like they might be like pressured to do it because it like might be like the cool thing to do.
Right. So do you think that like just education for children is a big thing, educating them on these big decisions, but you still think that they're capable of making them?
Absolutely. If they are if they are properly educated on different situations and they truly understand, what the outcomes of the decisions that they make, and if it's something that the parents, if it's something that, won't really affect them in like a huge way, like it's not like a really big decision, I think if they're properly educated, I think they're definitely capable of making their own decisions.
So to touch back on the puberty blocker thing, are you aware that if children go on puberty blockers that they lose pretty much all adult sexual function when they're older?
I wasn't really aware of that. I was also having partial trouble answering questions. I didn't know much about puberty blockers. I don't think I've honestly even heard about those. I probably have, but just like not really come back to memory. I mean, if they truly don't plan on like potentially like having kids, or like maybe they're like wanting to like adopt, it's really going back to say like, it's your, people always say this all the time, it's like your life, your body, I mean, I'm not against anyone doing that. If they feel like this is, if they think that's what they want to do, then I mean, I say by all means go ahead and do it. Like, I don't have any plans in my future to do that, but I don't see it as a big reason. Like, no one should be, shaming someone for like not wanting to engage in sexual activity. There's other if people think we need to bring more the next generation. There's other ways to raise up the next generation. Adoption and things like that. So I mean, I think making the decision to go on puberty blockers is something that someone at a young age can make.
Do you think that a parent should be involved in that decision?
I think a parent should definitely be involved in that decision, mainly due to the fact that, they are their parents, and, I think, all parents should, definitely go ahead and talk to their children, just, to let them know and understand, what it means if they go ahead and decide to do puberty blockers. Like, although it should ultimately come down to, the child, because they're the ones who are preventing, who will basically make the decision to either say, I want to be able to engage in sexual activities potentially in my life, or I don't want to. So I think the parents should be there and for me, like, moral support, but it's ultimately up to the child's decision.
So you think that children are capable of making sexual choices?
Yes, I think it is possible for a child to make sexual choices. Again, they just have to know, like, what are the consequences and, what will follow through if they make a decision to, regardless of something sexual.
So it comes down to just information and education for you, correct?
Correct.
Cool, man. I really appreciate your opinion. What was your name again?
Colton.
Colton, nice to meet you. Thanks for stopping and talking to me. They sound like they have an opinion, but they don't want to stop. At least I'm starting conversations amongst peers. Maybe these types of conversations are easier to have with friends, though. I'll admit that. Yeah. You want to do one?
Sure.
Cool. What was your name? You don't have to.
Reagan.
Okay, Reagan. Yeah. The question today is, are children capable of life-altering decisions?
Like, are they able to make them, or should they be allowed to make them?
Both.
Both?
How about that?
I
However
think
you want to.
there's definitely things like children do that can drastically alter their life, so like obviously have the capability to do it. And when it comes to should they be allowed to make those decisions, I think it ultimately depends on the decision and the child, because and like the age of the child, and because different maturity levels and stuff. Like, I don't think like a 3-year-old should be allowed to decide what tattoo they want to get.
Right.
But there are certain things, especially if it's a decision that can be reversible, that's like another thing. So I think it's really a case-by-case basis, and putting any blanket term over it would do injustices.
What did you have in mind for like a reversible decision? Were you thinking of anything in particular?
Well, I know like a hot topic is with like gender expression and that kind of thing, where if it's something like choosing a different name or dressing a different way, they can fully decide once they get older, no, never mind, back to my old name, back to my old dress, like whatever. Right. So that is like, it would be life altering as they grew older, but then they could reverse those if they wished. So things like that.
So if we're on that topic, do you think that children should be able to make the decision to take puberty blockers or testosterone or estrogen, something like that?
Yeah, I think, again, it depends on the child, and there are like a lot of steps to getting that done. Like, it's not just I feel like being a boy today, I'm gonna go get like my testosterone shot. There's like a lot of psychology like intervention before then. So again, case by case basis. But I think if you were at the age of like when puberty starts, around like 10, 11, 12, and a lot of kids don't realize that they want puberty blockers until the puberty starts happening. So I think around that point, they are capable of deciding if they want that happening to their body or not.
Do you think that that's a reversible decision?
I know that a lot of puberty blockers, once you stop taking them, it does just kind of kickstart puberty again. Like, it's been used, because it's a hot topic for gender reassignment, but it has been used a lot of the time for if somebody just happens to have a an imbalance of their hormones when they're growing up. Like if you're going through puberty when you're 5, they will give you puberty blockers until you're like at a more comfortable level. So it's treated as like a big scary unknown thing, but it's a lot more research than people realize.
Were you aware that some of the puberty blockers that clinics use are the same medicine that they used to use to chemically castrate prisoners?
Yes, I have heard about that. And I think a lot of that comes from like they were doing different dosages. There was a lot of like messed up psychology behind the chemical castration thing, like with gay men being chemically castrated and that kind of thing. So I think it's kind of a false equivalence where even though it's the same medicine, it was being used in a very different way at different dosages.
Are you also aware that a lot of the time when children go on puberty blockers, they become sterile for life?
For life? I wasn't aware of the sterility for life. I do know that there is a lot of psychological things before those steps. So I don't personally have enough knowledge to counteract that argument, but I do know that there are people out there that do.
There's been people from WPATH very high up on record saying that this is a fact. Do you have any comment to
No,
that?
I will look into that more, but I do know that I have personally had friends and stuff that go on that path, and it saved their life. So I think a lot of the time there's just not enough humanity put into those decisions or understanding of why people are making those decisions.
Do you think that parents should be involved in that decision for the child in any capacity?
I think the parents, like, especially if it's like a supportive or even just like concerned and kind parent, then yeah, like talk to your children, understand what they're going through if you're concerned about it. But I don't think parents, even well-intentioned ones, are the end-all and be-all of like bodily autonomy, even for a child.
Were you aware of there are some schools that keep pronoun decisions private from parents? They will allow the child to go by whatever pronoun they choose, and they keep that private from the parents. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, and I actually fully agree with that kind of thing, because not everyone is lucky enough to have a good parent. And so if a kid's like going through something or trying to figure it out, like we were talking about the reversible decisions, like changing your pronoun, very easy and not like long lasting if you decide not to. But if you trust a teacher more than your parents and you confide that within them and you want to just try it out, see what's going on, then that is a very like safe way to do it without the parent who might react violently or negatively, possibly interfering and hurting the child.
I got one more question on that topic. Do you think that one step further, children should be able to make the decision to have surgeries, like a top surgery or bottom surgery?
Again, it depends on the child, on the age, on other psychological evaluations, if they've been on puberty blockers, if they've been on hormones, whatever the, again, it's case-by-case basis. I think there are certainly cases, at least in my experience, where top surgery before the age of 18 was, again, life-saving for that individual. So, yeah, it's never an easy topic or an easy discussion, and anyone that claims to have all the answers is just lying.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time and being cordial, and
Yeah, have a good one.
thanks for your opinion. You too. I try not to push back too much in interviews because I want to stay as unbiased as possible, although I do have my own opinions. I've been told that shines through whether or not I'm trying to be unbiased or not, but
It's a difficult question. Honestly, it depends on the child, I feel. But I think they are. As much as we adults like to think they don't know what's going on, they have a better understanding than we think. They understand the world in just a different way than us. If anything, I feel we're just honestly weighed down a lot more by pessimism and just negative thoughts and emotions, while they're just so much more open to opportunities and just even their own emotions. They're just more open up to themselves and the world. Well, I feel as we just grow older, our views just slowly narrow more and more.
Do you think that that's due to education on certain topics and being enlightened on certain things? Maybe that's why children are very open to the world, because they just don't have the experience.
Yeah, if anything, I'm actually history education, so it's a very big thing for me, a very big topic for me. And yeah, I feel the education system it messes up somewhere along the way, because I just remember always reading of like kids are full of wonder and so many questions when they're young, but by the time they're in high school, they just seem so dulled to it. And to me, it's a horrible thing, because kids should be able to keep that wonder. It's what makes life worth it. The wonder of being able to see everything in this world is the beautiful thing that it is.
Right. So what do you think about like tattoos and piercings? Do you think kids should be able to get tattoos and piercings like without parental consent, or just make their own decisions on that?
That is a difficult one. 'Cause, I feel there is some importance that maybe wait until they're a certain age.
What age would that be for you?
Well, so it depends. I feel, because it can be, as you've seen, our laws are a bit iffy. It's like some things, oh, you're not until you're 18. Oh, not until you're 21, or not until you're 25. It's really weird. I feel it sort of depends on the action. Life-altering or body-altering decisions I feel maybe even body-altering decisions might be something more that should be open more to discussion, and I feel they should really weigh it out. But if they really want it, and if it's something so meaningful to them that they're willing to do it, maybe, but it's just a very difficult subject.
Right. So do you think young children should be allowed to make the decision to go on puberty blockers?
It ultimately depends. That's also a really difficult question. As I've said, as a history education, like, I've always just been so very intimidated by the subject of like they feel this way and they feel a certain way, and although I do want to support them, it's also it's a really important decision in their life that's going to decide it on later, decide their entire life later. So it's a bit, maybe something that's a bit more time to wait, but I do understand the importance of it being early on so it stops. I mean, stops the whole puberty, but I feel there should be some discussion, a lot of discussion for it before any steps are taken. And
were you aware that children who go on puberty blocker are most likely, 98% of them lose the ability to orgasm, and they become sterile? Were you aware of that?
I was not. And I guess that is a negative side effect of it. And then that's why it's something that has to really be discussed and figure it out before you make that decision.
Yeah, because when I was young, I thought for sure I didn't want kids, but now that I do have kids, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I guess that's life. We constantly change. Our opinions of things change.
Right.
So and that's another thing. I feel we just need to do the best to teach our kids about these subjects of the world, because the world is complicated. Individuals are complicated. And yeah, the best we can honestly do, I feel, in that situation is just try to teach them, really discuss it out with them, and figure it out if they really do feel this way or if it's maybe some other issue.
So education, time spent thinking about said decision. Do you think that there's like an appropriate amount of time that they should be thinking about the decision? Do you think it should be made quickly, or like it should be a long thought out process with maybe some counseling? Or
I feel counseling should definitely be involved, but it honestly fully depends, because, well, like I said, it's a very important decision that has to be made quickly if they do want to make that change. But I feel it's something that definitely has to be reviewed, something that should take at least some time so that they can fully weigh the decision and the weight of it.
Cool, man. I appreciate your opinion, and thanks for stopping to talk to me.
No problem.
Congratulations on the B+.
Thank you.
Better grades than me.
Something I guess to see.
So I'm assuming the question is related to like people transitioning at a young age.
If you want it to be.
I'm not going to do that because I am not part of that community and I am not well versed in the debate over that. I feel like it depends on the life-altering decision. So over the summers, I work at an outdoor school, and we have kids as young as 10 sometimes for the family weeks, but it usually ranges between 12 and 18. And I would say that I don't know, I feel like making life-altering decisions depends less so on age and more so on maturity. As I've run into a lot of adults I don't feel like are capable of making life-altering decisions for themselves and most certainly for others. And I feel that it depends on the circumstance. It's a very complicated question because I feel like not every kid is capable of making life-altering decisions, but I feel like there are kids, and I hate to say it, but it's usually the kids who've been through some shit. Like at the place I work, you can kind of tell, like, okay, this kid has at least some life experience, and I feel like they're much more capable of making life-altering decisions than a kid who's never been forced into that situation their entire life.
Like, say, going with one parent or another in, like, family court or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and I feel like my parents are still together somehow. I don't know how. But they have managed to stay together. But a lot of my friends whose parents aren't together anymore, it's kind of a tough decision because you're not always given the decision either. Oftentimes the kid doesn't really have a say in it, which I feel like is a time where it'd be important to let a child make this life-altering decision.
Right. What about like tattoos or piercings? Do you think kids should be able to, without parental consent, be able to make those types of decisions?
I feel like for smaller piercings, yes. I feel like for tattoos, no. However, nowadays we have things like temporary tattoos. I'm not talking about the stick-ons, but they make these fading tattoos that last.
Airbrush stuff?
No, it's like full needle. It's just ink that fades, and it'll last for about 6 months to a year. I feel like you should be able to get that without parental.
Yeah, if it fades away, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for stopping to talk to me, man. I appreciate it.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for your opinion. So I ended up running out of time on the meter and also quarters. So I decided to head down to the Arcata Plaza, my favorite place to get interesting interviews.
So are you here reporting on the comic?
No, the prompt is on the board here. It's I'm asking, are children capable of making life-altering decisions?
No.
No? Do you want to do an interview? Tell the people? Come on over. What was your name?
Cat.
Kat, my name's Aaron.
Meow.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Aaron.
So the question today is, are children capable of life-altering decisions?
I'm going to speak from the Vedic perspective, India's ancient Bhagavatam and their ancient culture. I like what they've done, and they've gotten very good results. Children. No, children and females must be protected at all times. First by their fathers, then by their husbands, then by their sons. They are very easily influenced, children and women, and because of their honesty and their innocence. It's nothing to do with, this or that or what Western conceptualization would tag it. So, yes, children must be protected, and they must be raised properly. When a child reaches 12, it is time to become an adult. You don't wait till you're 18. That's a little long in the tooth. They're already set. Too much distance between the parents and the child. And marriage, 20, 25. Children, 30? No, too old. And you want the mother to be young, around, I would say 15, 16. So she has a very close relationship with the children and can keep up with the grueling demand of having children. You cannot do this when you're middle-aged. It's not possible to go out and play with the children. I mean, you might take them for a walk, but no, you're over the hill. Life-changing decisions, what would that look like?
Let's start with an easy one. How about tattoos and piercings?
And let the children decide?
Yeah.
When they can pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah, when they can take responsibility for what they choose, But just to give it to them without any sense of responsibility, entitlement. I want, I, me, mine. And it produces that I, me, mine conception. You know, everything, there's nothing, free is an atheistic word. It doesn't exist. It's for the suckers and the shills, you know, and the cheaters. As a man sows, so he shall reap. What you put into it is what you get back. Nothing comes for free. It's all awarded by the characters you cultivate. So we want to cultivate good character in children. And you can't do that by it's the same thing with our leadership, democracy. Letting the least qualified people in our society pick their leaders. Now, how's that going to work? Well, we see how it works. Not a good idea. They pick out the least qualified people like themselves, to lead. And are they capable of leading? No. All you have to do is look around us. Our whole society is in bankruptcy. Bankruptcy, and it's not because we don't have the money or the resources. We don't have the leadership. The leadership is at fault, not the people. They want to blame the people. Oh, they're this, oh, they're that. Sign labels, homeless, drug addicts, whatever. As an offhanded answer to relieve them from the responsibility. But the responsibility of the leaders is this, the well-being of the people. That is their responsibility. My spiritual master said 4 years ago that dogs would be treated better in this Kali Yuga than people. And so it has come to pass. The proof of the pudding is in the taste. And
Doesn't taste very good right now, does it?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I hate to see what's going on in this country, and it's not the people. It is the leadership. And they will not take responsibility because they never were leaders to begin with. They'll be responsible for the well-being of the people. And that leader must come out of a dynasty, a king. And there can never be two kings. Only one king, because only one king can ensure peace. And many countries, including India, once ruled the world. And what to speak of Israel. And they all did it with the same formula. A king and a priest as counselor. And out of that became huge success. Democracy, it is not working out. When are we going to look at the formula and saying this recipe is not producing good results? No, they just want to keep, well, we'll just get more people to vote. No, that's just going to produce more bad results because it is a recipe, and it is a recipe for disaster to let the least qualified people in the country pick their leaders. That's like letting the children make their own decisions, like what time they're going to go to bed. And I mean, you know, how's that going to work out for you parents? The social fabric was just disintegrating, and without that social fabric and strong community, it's impossible to raise good progeny. They get influenced by outside interests, including the schooling system, which is also profiteering off your children. Education is just advanced economic development for greater sense gratification. That's all it is. To increase your skills for greater sense gratification. Better job, better living. Where is your freedom? This is a nation of fear. Everybody in a state of fear about everything. Where is your freedom from fear? Cruel taskmaster. For your children, for you, for everybody. Nobody even feels like they can even go anywhere and feel safe and enjoy. Where is the well-being of the people? Well, that rests with the leadership.
Another question I had today about children and being able to make decisions. Do you think are you okay? Do you think that children have the ability to decide if they want to go on puberty blockers or not?
No, I mean, do adults even have that responsibility to decide if they're going on puberty blockers or not? That is a deep science, and is any of you out there capable to make that choice for yourself or your children? Who do you think you are? You know, you can't even take the trash out correctly, and you want to get into your genetic plumbing? Look at your life. Can't feed yourself properly. Can't even get your house cleaned up. And you're gonna take that little project on. Look at your life. Look at your job. Look at your family. Look at your community. Complete bankruptcy. Oh, but you're too busy rearranging your plumbing. I see. This is what they call decadence. It's decadence to ignore what is essential for such nonsense that just is all about I, me, mine, and it doesn't profit anybody or anything long enough. Get a tattoo when you're 15. How are you going to feel about that tattoo when you're 40?
Right.
Things change. And children must be brought up to negotiate those changing facets of life. Your hands are full enough with that, raising the children correctly so they can maintain themselves and feed themselves and house themselves. And you want to send them off to some scientist to have their plumbing rearranged? Where are the parents? They are taking the position of children too. Irresponsible. Oh, it's all whimsical. And the children get ignored and the pets get treated as if they're children. They get children's names, children's outfits, children's attention. It's a dog.
Dog mom.
Dog mom, exactly. Where are you going? Are you going backwards, Devo? Guesswork and speculation. And when you get into areas like that, guesswork and speculation, well, big risk.
Massive risk.
Would you be willing to take it?
I don't think so.
No. With incomplete knowledge and go into something like that not knowing what the outcome might be, that's a risk.
It's a dangerous game.
We are not a people that take risks unnecessarily. Human life is a valuable asset to get off this wheel of karma. And to be waste valuable human life, to be awarded human life, is very rare. Out of 820 million species, human life, the only time you get to ask the question, who am I, where am I, and what am I? This is a purpose of human life, self-realization, so you know who you are. You are not an image. You are part and parcel of the absolute supreme truth. That's what you need to know so that you can move ahead confidently, without fear, and without second guessing, and without guesswork and speculation. Oh my God. They want to open Pandora's box with guesswork and speculation. Why do you think that's going to be any different than anything else you do? Take a look at your lives.
Thanks, Kat. I appreciate it.
Proof of the pudding's in the taste.
That was Kat. Meow. Sparked quite the debate over there.
No, they are not.
You want to come say it on camera?
I want to be filmed, but
You want to say it behind the camera into the mic? So your face isn't on camera?
do I think that 5 or 6 year olds should be able to decide their gender? No, I don't believe so.
What about like a 12-year-old?
Not even then.
What about like a 16-year-old?
I would get in trouble for piercing my ear at age 16, much less having my body, like annihilated or what's the better word for it? Geez, my vocabulary is missing me. To be defiled. I don't think that a girl should be able to just have her breast surgically removed just because she thinks or she's brainwashed into believing that the sex that she is not okay, that it's not acceptable. I don't believe that's okay. I know from experience because my second-born daughter is now a man, supposedly, and is going to go ahead with all the surgery that it takes to become a man, at least from the waist up or whatever, and it breaks my heart, and I don't say it out of prejudice or hatred. It's out of love because, that's my daughter. I held her in my arms as a baby and fed her, and I didn't fill her mind full of all this stuff that she otherwise would not.
I can deeply empathize. I have a daughter of my own and a son.
Yeah, and I think it's just all wrong, So in order to become part of their crew, their circle, you have to become something that you are not, and I don't think that's fundamentally
Do you think that kids are being led to these decisions from trends?
It is a trend. It does seem. I mean, there's always been, people who would portray the other sex other than what they were born as and all that stuff. But and one reason I just don't really like them is because they don't like me. Because I'm like enemy number one. I'm white. I'm male. I'm straight. Oh, and I'm older. So they're gonna say, oh, you're just a white cis male. And they would say it with such degradation as if that wasn't okay, that wasn't acceptable to them. So why should I, be so kind as to be like, oh, I'm all accepting of your dysphoria or whatever you want to call it, and yeah, it's a backwards world. I mean, I think someone asked me what I thought about all that stuff, and I said, it's going to come full circle. So where we realize why things aren't supposed to be that way. It seems as though they're going against the natural order of anything. Anything that's natural. If it goes against nature, then they're all for it. I just know. It's just my observation. That's all.
Well, I appreciate your opinion, man.
Thanks.
Means a lot.
Appreciate you appreciating my opinion.
Have a good day.